Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, multiple MOTH winner Katya Duft talks about riding the bus in LA.
They advertise him to me as somebody who will teach even the stupidest person in 5 lessons. And I was like, oh, yeah, great. Let's see what happens. For the very first lesson, the guy just took me on Sunset Boulevard. And he said, that's my method. I just throw you like a puppy in the water and swing however you like. And I said, can we please start on a tiny little street from something basic? He said, no, this is not my principle. And since he was Russian and Russians don't mince their words, he told me, you're hopeless. With me, even an autistic guy got his license, and you just don't have any hope you won't get yours ever. You just don't have any talent for driving.
Today on the show, writer and storyteller Katya Duft talks about riding the bus in LA. Stay close.
Hey, it's Katya Duft, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 12 years, or you're a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys had a chance to listen to the story last week from writer and author Bob Crane. Bob Crane talked about meeting Jack Nicholson, which, of course, that's interesting right there. And then he also talked about the murder of his father, which, yes, this is interesting. The murder of his father, who was Hogan's Heroes star, also named Bob Crane. So Bob Crane, if any of you remember, he was Hogan on Hogan's Hero. And in 1978, he was brutally murdered in his apartment. And that crime has never been solved, which is just bananas. And Bob Crane that I spoke with, he talked about writing a book about his father. And you know, he's just a fascinating man. And then again, he did talk about meeting Jack Nicholson. So we talk a lot about Jack Nicholson, a lot about Bruce Stern, and a lot about his dad, Bob Crane. Go back, you guys. Listen to Bob Crane last week, but not today. Stick with me today, because today I'm here with a very, very smart, bright, I think those are different words. Smart, bright, and talented girl. Her name is Katya Duft. I've known her for a few years, and she brings forth the topic, riding the bus in LA. And I cannot wait to hear about this because honestly, I don't know anybody else that rides the bus. I mean, that sounds insane, I know. And Katya, when my daughter was younger, we would take in my playgroup, we would take the kids on the bus, you know, like a treat.
Nice. And how did they like it?
They loved it. They always thought it was, you know, an adventure, and they didn't have to wear seat belts all of a sudden, you know. So it is a very different experience for a kid. And yeah, you have been riding the bus a long time.
Yeah, because I've been in LA now for 19 years, and you can say I started riding the bus pretty much on day one.
Wow, I didn't know that. I've been in LA 25 years, and yeah, I didn't know you'd been here this long. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's 19 years now. Yeah.
19 years, that's amazing. Did you do this because you just didn't choose to get a car or learn to drive? Or
Oh, it's such a long story. When I lived in Russia, I tried to learn how to drive, but unfortunately, the person who was teaching me, their car was not automatic. So I found it super hard to learn, you know, with manual transmission. And also, he had a bright idea of teaching me driving in the snow in winter. So, of course, me in the car flew out to a gutter, and that traumatized me for years to come. And when I moved here, I actually, public transit back then was not very good, but I found a job. I worked at a school in West Hollywood, and there was a direct bus line to it, so I didn't worry too much.
yeah.
But it was a private school with, children with very rich parents. Everybody is very upscale. And they were always making fun of me, and they were saying, teacher, you don't even know how to drive. Shame on you. How can you be how can you be a person we respect? So they pretty much guilt tripped me and shamed me into getting a license. And they even found me. An instructor, and they advertised him as a person who will teach even the stupidest person on earth in 5 lessons.
Oh, Katya, that is so funny. Oh my gosh. I am so excited to hear the entire story about riding the bus in LA. But I didn't know that. I could see if you learn to drive a car that's a stick shift and it's in the snow and you have an accident, that would scare the crap out of you.
Yep.
What in the world? Did your parents drive in Russia? They both drove, right?
No, that's the thing, because Russia has pretty awesome public transit, and like every city, every town have buses and transportation vans, like all kinds of stuff. So nobody in my family expressed any interest. Actually, my mom did. So when I was young, she talked to my dad, and my dad said, "Nah, it's too much work buying a car, maintaining the car."
Yeah.
So it was my mom's lifelong dream, but she's now 83, and they keep telling her, "Do you want to get a license at 83?" She's like, "No."
That's so funny. Oh my gosh, that's wild. Now, my kid is 15 and they have no interest in driving, which is fine with me. I would give my kid rideshare money until she's 25 if that's what they want. Because
Yeah.
honestly, I think more, less cars is better all around. And yeah, I mean, obviously. And I think we all are headed that way to a rideshare system, et
Yes.
cetera. But yeah, public transportation in other countries is definitely superior.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Do you go back to Russia ever?
Yes, I try to go at least twice a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, yes. I actually ended up going freelance several years ago just because, I would like to visit my family more often and don't be stuck in, 2 weeks of vacation per year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, yeah, I usually go once or twice a year. And this year it was especially important for me to go because of the war. And I wanted to make sure that, my family are. I mean, I know they're not okay because they're all in shock from what's happening, but at least that they're physically, fine.
And are they near a city?
My mom and my sisters, they all live like not far away from Moscow, so yeah.
And so, I mean, this is such a broad, we only have
Mhm.
so much time, but I am extremely curious as to what does your mother and your sisters think is going on? What do they know?
Well, I mean, it's funny that within one family there can be a variety of opinions, but like two of my sisters and my mom are completely against it, and they're in shock that it even started. And one of my sisters, for some reason, tries to find justification to it all. I could say she listens to too much propaganda, maybe watches too much TV. I don't know, because my mom and my two other sisters don't watch TV at all, and they try to form an independent opinion. And in the end, you can say yes, it's a terrible invasion of a different country, and it's not clear why it was even necessary. But going into details, it's not even possible to tell what's going on anymore. It's just like scary, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better for right now.
What does a martial law mean for your family? Does that mean anything? Because Putin declared
Well,
that,
there
yeah.
Oh yeah, he declared it this in some regions, but it will probably spread all over. I mean, the scariest thing would be if people get banned to leave the country. For now, it's not the case, but there was just for now. It's not even over yet. There is now going on a partial conscription draft. And I have two nephews. I actually have three nephews. One of them is not like his health won't allow him to go to the army, but two could potentially go even though they never served. So we're all a little, stressed out about this right now.
Well, there's a huge evacuation of men leaving the country
Oh God, yes.
because of this exactly.
Yeah, one of my friends, when it was all announced, he's 47, so you can tell he probably wouldn't belong in the army anymore. Him and his wife tried to run away to Georgia, like ex-Soviet Republic Georgia, and the line at the border was about 10 miles long.
Oh
So
my.
they waited a day and then they gave up and went home because it's
Well,
crazy.
40, yeah, because he's calling for men all the way up to the age of 60.
Yeah, I know. But if you're 47 and never been to the army, I think it would be quite. You would be of questionable use, at war because you don't know what to do.
Well, but that's for many, 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 many people. Many people have no idea what to do. What would an 18-year-old boy know what to
Yeah.
do? I mean, nobody would know. But I'm just curious. So, what does your family think of Putin?
They think it's time to go. He's
Mm-hmm.
been around for 22 years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So.
Because it seems like Putin, and even in World War II, Russia, they don't care about their people. They just send them off in mass.
No, no. Oh my goodness. There is even a research about like how did Russia fight with demographic crisis after the war because so many men were killed, millions of men were killed, and then they found out that a lot of men after the war they just had children with multiple women, and that's why actually the Russian population came back up. But if you look at the statistics, there are still fewer men in Russia than women, and now they're
Wow.
pretty much trying to get rid of men again. And that's
Oh,
just terrible.
my. Now, did they ever express to you that they would like to come over to the States somehow?
My family, no. Uh, like, I don't know, but because a lot of people in my family are older, like all my sisters are all way older. They're like in the 60s. My
Mm-hmm.
mom is in her 80s.
Yeah.
So they all, I can't say they're happy there right now, but it's their country and they're a big family. They all like, keep.
Sure. Tight family.
Yeah, in this sense, they would not like to come here. So
Sure. But have they lost a lot of their privileges and because they've lost a lot of just regular stores?
oh yeah, they lost a lot. Yeah, like for younger people in my family, definitely it hit them hard because I mean, American companies won't allow to use their softwares anymore and stuff like that. But for older people, it's inflation, problems with retirement money, and access to medication. This all is a huge, huge problem, and it's worrisome. Yeah, so sanctions pretty much hit older people first.
And so, Katya, how did you decide to come to the States and how did you get here? School?
No, I met my husband online over 20 years ago, and initially we were not married yet. We were planning for him to come live in Russia, but back in 2002 there was a lot of terrorism in
Mm.
Russia as well. So he said, you know what, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to like try. I'm kind of afraid. And he said, you should come here. And he honestly only went to Russia twice. And it was
Wow.
all like about 20 years ago. He never
Wow.
visited again because he never
Wow.
found it particularly safe. So.
Sure. Well, sure. I mean, there's so many examples of it not being safe.
Yeah, so I just moved here and I stayed, and it's been, 19 years.
I'm so glad you're here. And you
Thank you.
also speak French, right? French and German,
Yeah, I
or?
do speak French as well. Yes, not as fluently as I used to. I majored in French, but yeah, like I now take huge efforts to keep it up.
Yeah, I love the language. I love that language. And then let me ask you something. This is totally superficial. And, if my audience wants to laugh at me, go ahead. I don't care. I'm going to ask her anyway. Katya, how come there's so many beautiful women in Russia?
Oh my! Because from the very childhood they tell you you have to keep yourself pretty, so you could get married, so you could find a husband. So a lot of women even go, if they need to, take the trash out, they get dressed up and they put makeup on, and so the Russian woman is taught to be pretty from the early age. That's why.
Wow. That is a really interesting answer.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Wow. That is so repressive or backwards or something, right?
Yeah, so yeah, like marriage has like a super big importance in Russia. I mean, maybe values changed a little bit now, but when in the Soviet Union, when I was growing up, I remember my dad even told you, "Why don't you go study physics? I know you don't particularly like it, but I'm a physicist. But it'll also be easier for you to find a husband because mostly guys become physicists." And I'm like, "Dad, no, this is not a
Oh
good reason."
my. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Wow, that is really funny. And then there also seems to be a lot of Russian women in Florida who come over and are surrogate moms. Have you heard of
Oh,
this?
yeah, I've heard of that too. Yeah, yeah.
What do you know of that?
I don't know much about it, but I definitely know it's a way for many women to earn extra money, and they don't mind, I guess. Um,
They go to Miami. They live in these high-rise condos. They have a pretty good lifestyle. They get put up while they're pregnant and taken care of, and then they have the baby give it over and get a sum of money, I guess.
yeah,
That's tough. I can't even imagine.
yeah, yeah. I used to see a lot of those ads online that like looking for Russian or Ukrainian woman. I don't know, maybe I've heard all kinds of opinions, and some of them are pretty racist. Some of them were saying,
Mm,
"Oh, we just need more white people, or we need like European genes because European people are smarter." But all of this is a little bit of bullshit. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so interesting. It really is. Uh, yeah. And also the fact that like Ukraine and Russia, I mean, there's families in the two countries, obviously. You know
oh
what I
yeah,
mean? And there's families. I mean,
yeah. Even my family is half Ukrainian, so we,
yeah.
yeah, we don't have people in Ukraine in terms like, okay, our uncle lives in Crimea that used to be Ukrainian, so you can
Mm-hmm.
safely tell that, yeah, we have some family in Ukraine if you consider, Crimea Ukrainian. But now it's all extra super complicated because most families are mixed, and now a lot of them don't talk to each other because you have to take sides. Yeah, what do you do if you don't want to take sides?
Yeah, it's like a civil war
Yeah,
almost.
absolutely. Yeah, it's yeah.
Ay, ay, ay. I feel so sad for everybody.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
winter is coming again, and I just think like, I don't know. I just feel like Putin is so dangerous and he just doesn't care about human life. So for him, like a nuclear bomb is not beyond. And then now Iran is there. They're supporting
oh God,
Russia.
yes, Iran, China, all this, oh, North Korea. Yep.
Ay, ay, ay. Katya, I'll tell you what. I think we better just take care of ourselves right now in the immediate, be happy,
Yeah,
live day to day, because it gets dark.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we're going to get your story in 1 second, but I also want to tell you guys, Katya Duft here, she's been a Story Smash winner. That's right. Story Smash at the Improv. Katya Duft takes all the cookies with 3 amazing stories. They loved you on that game.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun being on the game,
It was
and
a,
my biggest concern was like, oh, how will I be able to tell a story in 1 minute? But thankfully, that worked.
yeah, you can do it. Isn't that funny? You could tell any story in a minute. It's not going to have the details and it's not going to go in depth, but you can get across anything in a minute. I love
Yeah,
that.
amazing.
Yeah, the power of words.
Yep.
All right, you guys, before we get over to Katya's story, I wanted to remind you that my other show, My Life in 3 Songs, is happening right now on Spotify. I really need you guys to get over there and follow My Life in 3 Songs on Spotify because I got thousands of you guys here on Storyworthy, and I only have hundreds of people on My Life in 3 Songs. You see? Do you guys see? Are you doing the math? I need you to get over there. MyLifeIn3Songs.com will tell you everything you need to know. And wait till you see the talent coming up. I've got Kira Sultanovich coming up, Patton Oswalt coming up, Todd Glass, Phil Hendry. Yeah, that's right. I'm only getting the top of the top of the top for My Life in 3 Songs. So please, you guys, check it out and follow My Life in 3 Songs on social media at My Life in 3 Songs. And of course, Storyworthy. I'm around. I've always been around. I feel like I'm the story crypt keeper now. It's been going for so long. But listen, there's so many stories. You could go forever. I mean, this is kind of like a forever podcast, I think. All right, you guys, Katya Duft, you hear her talking. She is a writer and a storyteller and a 3-time Moth Story Slam winner, which ain't nothing, I'll tell you that. She is a frequent participant in storytelling shows all over Los Angeles, and she also works in post-production, which, what kind of post-production do you do?
This is mostly subtitling, so I translate movies from English to Russian and Russian into English for subtitling and once in a while for dubbing.
Isn't that interesting? That is so interesting because that's one of those things where you think, well, somebody's got to do it. I mean, I don't know anybody that does it, but now I do. Katya Duft, translator. I think that's fascinating. You guys can find out more about Katya over on Twitter at Tales from LA Bus and also on Instagram at Los Feliz Kitty. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for the very talented Katya Duft.
Yeah, so maybe we should pick up where we stopped. So I didn't drive in my first couple of years, and then I started working at a private school, and my students shamed me into getting an instructor. So they advertise him to me as somebody who will teach even the stupidest person in 5 days and in 5 lessons. And I was like, oh, yeah, great. Let's see what happens. But oh my goodness, for the very first lesson, the guy just took me on Sunset Boulevard and he said, that's my method. I just throw you like a puppy in the water and swim whatever however you like. And I immediately went into a panic mode and I froze and I wasn't able to do anything. And he said, what's wrong with you? You look like a ghost. And I said, can we please start on a tiny little street from something basic? He said, no, this is not my principle. And I said, sir, I hate to tell you, actually, he was Russian, so I didn't call him sir, but I said, I hate to tell you, but I tend to get panicky when I'm scared and I tend to freeze. So can you please take me to a tiny street? So he was not very happy about it. But he took me to a small street and started teaching me. But he already didn't respect me, so he was kind of like, abrupt with me. So after 5 lessons, I pretty much didn't learn anything. And since he was Russian and Russians don't mince their words, he told me, you're hopeless. I even, with me, even an autistic guy got his license, and you just don't have any hope. You won't get yours ever. You just don't have any talent for driving. And I dropped out, and of course, I felt hurt by these words. And then in winter, I went to visit some family, and they gave me an old truck with not such good brakes. So I was driving it around the countryside, and that's how I learned, in a more quiet situation, how to drive a car. Then I came back, took maybe 5 more lessons, and then I passed my license. And I was happy, but then I didn't know whether I would like to drive in LA or not. So I actually tried. I tried honestly for a month or two, but it all ended one day when I was getting out of a parking lot and I scratched somebody else's car. I left a tiny little scratch, but I was driving home and crying. They're like, oh my God, now that's what my life is going to be. I'll scratch people's cars, get tickets for parking, get tickets for speeding. And actually, on the way home, I got stopped by the cops, and they said, maybe you could wait with crying until you get home. Your driving was a little erratic. So then I came home and started thinking, you know what? This is too much stress. And at the time, I actually left that job at school and I found my subtitling job, which also had a direct bus line to it. So I was like, you know what? Fuck this thing. I'll just take a bus. And I was doing this successfully for years. And Actually, with some bus lines, I got super lucky because actually they built not even bus lines, train lines. They built a line from downtown to Santa Monica. And for me, it was extremely important because my office moved around that area in West LA. And I'm like, wow, now not only I can take a bus, but also a train. And so that's how it all happened. And then at some point, since I spent so much time on the bus and on the trains, I decided to start writing a blog about it. Especially that, in LA, people are not shy. They like talk a lot and they like behave like crazy. A lot of people travel on drugs or drunk.
Wait a minute. Wait, this LA? Oh,
This
this.
way, yeah, surprise, surprise. And there were situations happening in front of my eyes all the time. And since I was already in the country for 10 years, I felt like I'm pretty comfortable to start writing in English. So I started with little stories, like literally 2 paragraphs. And then I would add dialogues to them. And then I would like expand and bring some context in. And I would advertise it on Facebook a lot. And at some point, a person reached out to me and he said, "Have you heard of this guy, Scott Schultz, who actually has a storytelling show called Busted? And you would belong right there. You should give it a try." And it was 2014. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've never done storytelling in my life. How am I supposed to even tell a story? And he said, it's really easy. Just bring your stories. And he is like, he doesn't like people to read, but you can just, in conversational mode, tell a story. So I came to the show, met Scott, and he was like, oh, wow, your blog is exactly about the same thing I'm talking about. So he booked me for one show, then for two, then for three, and then I kept doing it for years and years until Scott moved to Boston during coronavirus. And me and him keep talking about me hosting it now. So whenever I have a little bit more free time, I'm hoping to start doing it because people ask me, they still remember that show because it was running for so long, for like 6 or 7 years, and with always great audience, extra people wanting to tell stories. So it was a lot of fun. And then after 1 year or 2 years at Busted, somebody told me, why don't you try the MOTH? Because it's you can tell a 5 minute story, right? And I said, yeah, but I don't think I've ever told a story in front of like 200 people. And they said, yeah, don't worry about it, just go and do it. And so I think it was the beginner's luck. So at my first MOTH, I think I finished third, which for me was amazing. I was like, whoa, how is that even possible? And again, with the beginner's luck, I won my second MOTH, and that was amazing. And I did the Grand Slam, which I didn't win. But telling a story in front of like 500 people or more, I don't remember how much it was at the Grand Slam. That was amazing, and it was a completely unforgettable feeling.
Where was that?
It was in downtown Regent, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big venue. It was all very like festive. I dressed up. I was wearing heels, a lot of makeup. It was insane. I loved it.
Aw, that is so exciting. Wait a minute. I know Scott Schultz. Great guy. Great guy.
Yeah, he is. I love Scott.
Yeah, and he did move to Boston, right? So he's gone.
He did, because in the beginning of the coronavirus, it was difficult with shows and everything. And his family is from Boston, so he moved there. Initially, he planned to be there a year, but for now, he's staying for the time being. And he always tells me, like, if you have free time and an opportunity, just go back to a venue, Storybooks and Cafe, and talk to them and see if they let you host the show there again. But he said, I'm pretty sure they will let you do it because they host spoken word all the time.
I love that title, Busted. That's really cute.
Yes, he even has a book that he used to sell at that store at Stories Books and Cafe. It was called Busted Short Stories. Based on everything he accumulated during the years, because he doesn't drive either.
Let me ask you: you truly left a teaching job? You left a teaching job because of the drive?
No, it wasn't because of a drive. It was way more dramatic than that. That since it was a private school, it was really difficult to control children. And one of my students during his SATs injured me. He sliced my hand with his cell phone. Because I said you cannot have your phone at SATs, and I grabbed it out of his hand, and he stabbed my hand.
Oh my God.
So I came to the principal and I said, either you take any action or I'm leaving. And he said, maybe you shouldn't have grabbed his phone.
Oh my God.
And I left immediately, and I just like applied for my subtitling job and left. And of course, when I was leaving, I said, kid, I might actually be suing your parents because you injured me. And the school was so scared, they actually kicked the boy out for the final 2 years. And he went elsewhere. Of course, I didn't sue anybody, but there was a little bit of a karma because 10 years later, the principal of the school was sued by the state because he was charging $10,000 for fake SATs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't know if he went to prison or not, but he was definitely sued for like faking SATs.
And wow, was that part of that college scandal or was that different?
Yes, that's a part of a college scandal. Yep, yep, that was the school.
Wow, that's terrible. Holy cow. He stabbed you with his pencil.
No. Remember razor phones? Remember
razor phones? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, 15 years ago, they had sharp edges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that is absolutely bananas. Did you walk out right at that second of the room?
Yeah, I walked right out, and it was like the very end of school year, and I just came to the principal, and when he said, nope, you shouldn't have done that, I said, okay, I'm leaving with no notice. I'm not given a 2-week notice. I can't be here anymore because you don't provide my security here, my safety.
Of course.
And he said, okay, go come pick up your check next week. And when I came for my check next week, he said, you should still have given us a notice. I'm like, nope. Did you talk to the kid's parents? He's like, yep, we'll let them know he got punched at home. I said, well, that's not enough for me. I don't get an apology. So they brought the kid and he apologized, but it still didn't feel like a safe place to work anymore. So I never regretted leaving.
Yeah. Wow. That's dramatic, man. And then they did end up kicking the kid out of school.
Yeah, I think him and a couple more kids. Because I when I was leaving, I said, I could actually, spread the word about the school being unsafe, and I would have been right in doing so. In fact, after when this huge college scandal broke out, LA Times called me.
Wow.
Yeah, and they said, we know you worked at that school. Like, can you spill some dirt on them? And, it was 15 years later or 14 years later. I didn't want to be particularly mean anymore because, I kind of got over it and I'm not a mean person. So I said, yeah, this school didn't provide safety for teachers. Kids were not disciplined because it was an expensive school and kids could do everything they wanted.
Right.
And that's every word of this is true, but that was pretty much all I said.
Yeah. Yeah. You are so mature. You are mature and you are articulate. And I think that maybe surprises some Americans. As it were. Well, they're hearing your accent and they, how it is. It's just, it's misogynist society and they think like, whatever. And then you are so powerful. I'm really glad you did that. Yeah, that is nuts, man. And then you didn't think about teaching at another school? Were you were just fed up with all of it?
Yeah, that's pretty much turned me away from education. And I tried subtitling and I really got, fascinated by it. And I still do a lot of subtitling as a freelancer these days. So I also do interpreting, mostly like for legal, for like citizenship interviews, green card interviews, medical. It's all fun stuff, and that's what I studied at school. So education was never my priority, really. I only went to work for the school because it was my first job, and I was trying to figure out what to do.
And the bus went there.
Oh, yeah, the bus went there. Yeah, at the time it was nice. Oh, God, my students in the morning, when they saw me getting off the bus, their favorite joke would be, Miss Duft, are you poor? I'd be like, I don't even want to start with you here. Go to class.
Unbelievable. God, I would really be bummed if my kid was that callous. That's
Oh.
terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, I kept an eye on these kids during the years. Now they're all in early 30s, and I'm happy to say they all like have families now, and like children. But it just sucked that they were so terrible when they were young. I hope
Yeah.
they changed.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, that kind of privilege, it's I don't know, it's just their way of life, I guess. Let me ask you, as a subtitle person, what do you call it again?
Yeah, subtitling. Yeah,
Okay.
subtitling.
As a subtitler, do you have to type as fast as
Oh
possible,
yeah.
or how's that go?
I mean, it doesn't have to be fast because let's say I got a movie to translate, and let's say it's 100-minute long runtime movie. It usually has about maybe 1,500 subtitles, and they give me about 2 to 3 days to translate it. So yeah, no, I don't have to do anything super fast. They give me a lot of time to type
So
it
you
in.
go through the film, you subtitle it, then do you go back and make sure it's okay?
Yes, honestly, they do everything to help us. So not only they send us the media, the actual movie, they also send us an English file to help us that already has time codes. So all I have is to do is to type my translation into a template that is already time coded,
I
and then
see.
after I'm done translating, making sure that everything fits the context, then I rewatch the movie to make sure everything's in sync.
Yeah. So do you care what the movie's about? I mean, is it better? Is it more fun if you're enjoying the movie?
Oh yeah, it's definitely more fun if I enjoy the movies because, like, let's say the other day I had a documentary about a synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh several years
Yeah.
ago.
That's where I'm from. I remember it well.
Yeah, you're from Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, so it was very traumatizing to watch and translate.
Oh my God.
So heartbreaking. So actually, I translated it. I started rewatching it, and I actually cried because it's
Oh.
so sad.
Oh my. Wow. And when you translate, do you ever like in parentheses write crying? Is that something you would
Oh, yes, that's
translate?
a special kind of file. It's called SDH. It's for hard of hearing. Like, we have files for people with no any health issues, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't need those parentheses because they know what's going on screen. They can hear everything. But when we make SDH files for hard of hearing, we have to put things like knock on the door, screaming, crying,
Sure.
snoring. Yes, that's for
Yeah.
people who cannot hear what's going on screen.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I find this all very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
s-
fun.
I'm so glad I finally had on somebody that rides the bus. It's like how this is like you're my 764th guest or something crazy
Oh
like
my
that.
goodness, congratulations. That's a long project.
It is a long. You know what? That's interesting. You should say that. It is a long project. And recently, I'm thinking about, and this will be new to the audience, but I'm thinking about bringing back some of the old stories and then calling those episodes still story worthy. You see?
Yeah, I love it.
I might do that. Save me some time and also refresh some of the great stuff I've heard over the last 12 years. That might happen. And have you, by chance, listened to My Life in Three Songs?
I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I will. I am going to. Yes.
I want you to because I think you will also be a really interesting person to talk about your song choices since you grew up in a whole different culture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Can you think of any songs right off the top of your head like that you can remember that would represent the impactful three songs in your life? I'm just curious.
When I was very young, my dad was listening to a lot of Beatles and Elton John, and I remember I was always fascinated by the song "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road"
Yeah.
by Elton John, because it was also at the time when I was reading like, Wizard of Oz, and there was
Mm-hmm.
like and I also read Russian translation of it, and so it all combined in my head. So you can pretty much say it formed my childhood in many ways. So I still like singing this song in karaoke.
That is such a great example. Holy cow. Because I remember Goodbye Yellow Brick Road as well, because I would babysit across the street at this house and they had the album and it did look like the Yellow Brick Road on the album, right? And it was like Elton John. It was like a cartoon, not a cartoon. It was an animation. Is that the word? Anyway, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
It was animated and it was Elton John in a purple satin jacket getting ready to walk down this yellow brick road. And I remember it so well. Isn't that something? And
Yeah,
then,
it is.
yeah, and then that song is more meaningful than so many of his other songs.
Right, I know.
His songs can range from deep to very simple.
Yeah.
But Yellow Brick Road is like, specifically, it's like a metaphor.
It is, yep. You don't get it until you grow up.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's just such a beautiful melody, too. And yeah.
It is. It really, really is. Wow. I got to get you on my Life in 3 Songs and we can talk more about that.
Thank you. I would love that.
Oh, good. You guys, don't forget to follow Katya over there on Twitter at Tales from LA Bus. And also check her out on Instagram at Los Feliz Kitty. How did you decide on that Instagram, by the way?
Well, at first I wanted to make it simple, just write like Katya, but there were, for some reason, a lot of Katyas on Instagram already, and I'm like, I live in Los Feliz, and my best friend calls me Kitty throughout all our 18 years of friendship. So I'm like, why not? Los Feliz Kitty it is.
That is adorable. I love it. All right, you guys, we got to wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Katya's stuff, and don't forget to check out my Life in 3 Songs. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Katya Duft. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Christine. Thank you so much for booking me here or for inviting me here.
Yay. My name is Christine Blackburn saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.